Hey world, welcome back to another episode of Be Inspired Podcast where we're inspiring you to live the abundant life you deserve. So I have another awesome guest on the line. I have Bart Merrill, who is an international entrepreneur, author, and monetize your mindset presenter. All right. Help take the first commercial bungee jump into Japan. He's not sure if he's proud or not of it or not, but he jumped off the bungee tower just hanging on the bungee cord with his hands. He has been a serial entrepreneur since before he could drive, legally anyway, because he did crash his parents' car when he was 8. Wow. Tell me a little bit about that.
As a kid, you sometimes play hooky from school, and my dad had been letting me drive on his lap because I grew up in Podunk, New Mexico, a little town called Animas, and so Dad would let me drive on his lap. I wouldn't touch the pedals, but I would run the steering wheel.
Yeah.
And so I played hooky from school one day. Mom and Dad had to go into town. It was 30 minutes to town, 30 minutes back, and then probably 30 minutes running around in town. So I figured I had an hour and a half. And the keys to the car were hanging on the refrigerator. And I thought, Dad will be so proud if I can learn how to drive a little better. And this was a 1970 Ford LTD 4-door car. I mean, we're talking just this beast of a car with heavy metal, and there's no damage in the car. And I backed out of the garage. And as I was backing out, a car went by on the road that went by our house. I'm like, oh crap, I'm going to get caught driving this car and I shouldn't be driving it. So I better park it back in the garage. So I was pulling it back into the garage, and I had my foot resting on the brake, and it started to go a little faster than I wanted it to go. And of course, I panicked. My foot came up off the brake and hit the gas. And I
Oh,
went boom into the end of that garage and hopped out of the car. I'm looking at the car, and everything was okay with the car. And then I turned around, and the cabinets on the end of the garage were just demolished. And I ran inside, put my keys back up put the keys back up on the refrigerator, curled up on the couch where I was supposed to be in the first place. Mom and Dad got home. They didn't notice. And anytime Mom wanted something from the garage, I was more than happy to go get it for her. And I had played all along with this charade for about a day. And then finally, my dad, he broke me and got me to admit that I wrecked the car into the garage.
wow.
And and so the next summer, I had to hoe weeds in the cotton field for 50 cents an hour until I paid off those cabinets in the garage. It was child labor laws did not exist back then, I guess.
Oh man, I was just wondering, like, so what happened when he caught you or you finally fessed up to it, you know?
Yeah, like I said, I was grounded from I could basically go to school and come home, and then I had to study, and only time I got to watch TV was when my mom wanted to watch something. But then the real thing was in the summertime having to work in the fields in the hot sun,
Yeah.
and when I'd rather be playing and doing something else.
What's one lesson would you say that experience taught you?
So I was punished more for the fact that I was lying about it and trying to avoid taking responsibility. And so the lesson I learned there was take responsibility instead of trying to avoid it, you know. And so that was the man, I got this eyelash in my eye. That was the lesson that I really remember that came from that, because the biggest punishment was more for the lying than it was for the actual deed that was done.
So take responsibility, tell the truth. Own up to
Exactly.
awesome. So you often say opportunities are everywhere. When did you first realize the world looked different through an entrepreneur's eyes?
So for me, I was pushed into this kind of. My goal in life was to get in the FBI and chase serial killers. That was my dream job. And we had a FBI agent friend that said the easiest way into the FBI at the time, this is back in the 90s, the easiest way was through accounting. And then once you get in the FBI, you apply to the different positions that open up. And if you're good, you'll get the position. So I wouldn't have to stay in the white collar stuff. So I started studying accounting. My goal was to get in the FBI. I found out two things very quickly. One, I didn't like accounting, and two, I wasn't very good at it. But it was still a means to an end. That was my goal. And then I took a break from school for 1 quarter while I went down and helped my dad on the farm. Went to improve my Spanish because that was a good quality that would help me get into the FBI and help me with my credentials. And while I was down there, there were people in the different law enforcement, regular cops, border patrol, customs, friends that we had that were getting this RK surgery done on their eyes to correct their vision. This was before LASIK. And I was, a small town, making money, no place to spend it. I was just like, I'm going to do that because it was $1,500 an eye. And so I went ahead and did it, got back up to school, finishing up my last quarter, doing the application process, and I found out that that automatically disqualified me from the FBI because it was still considered experimental and they didn't want to put a lot of money into an agent and then they go blind. And so I was devastated. I had no idea what I was going to do. Then I just fell back on what my dad taught me, not necessarily he didn't sit me down and teach me the birds and the bees of business, but he showed me by example. He was a pig farmer, but he had his hands in many different things in the agricultural industry. He wasn't just a pig farmer, he was a businessman. And so when I was caught in a degree that I didn't like, that I wasn't good at, I'm like, what am I going to do? And basically, life happened. And as life happened, whatever crossed my path, good, bad, or ugly, I always asked, how can I monetize it? And I was prepared for when the opportunities came. A buddy of mine up at school who worked for the bungee tower company in the college town that I was in jokingly asked me, hey, would you like to go back to Japan? Because I'd spent a lot of time in Japan. I spoke Japanese fairly fluently. And I thought for a second, I was like, yeah, I kind of do. Well, have you bungee jumped before? I'm like, no, but I'm an extreme junkie. I mean, I like to do that adrenaline stuff. And so there I am. 3 months later, I'm on my way to Japan to build a bungee tower, train the staff, and make sure everything runs properly. And so that was the first step to where I contracted with the Japanese company, and I was basically the intermediary between the American and the Japanese company. And the Japanese company liked me, so the next year they called me back and said, "Hey, we saw this thing on TV. It's called the Sky Coaster. You've seen them. I'm probably in the big amusement parks. They're the big swing thing." And they said, "Okay, we want you to go try it." So they paid me, I think, $3,000 to go try it. I went and tried it. I said I liked it, and they said, "Well, let's bring it to Japan." And so once again, I'm the intermediary between the two companies, and we took the first one of those to Japan. And then, I mean, that's just how it started off, and then I learned as I went that opportunities are right there. They're going by. All you got to do is take action and do it. So I'm in Japan. I'm going to the gym because I was bored. I didn't have any friends. I went to the gym. And because I was the big American, the gaijin, that they don't know if he speaks Japanese or not anyway, nobody talked to me. And a couple of weeks in, this one guy comes up to me and he goes, "Hello." And I said, "Hello." And then I started speaking Japanese to him. And he's like, "Phew, I'm glad you speak Japanese because I was done at hello." We became friends. He was a big rig driver in Japan, and he wanted to quit driving big rig and start importing camping trailers and Ford and Dodge diesel pickups to pull the camping trailers from America. And he asked me if I would help him. I said yes. I thought he would know how to do it. He didn't know how to do it. So we both learned together. I still do that to this day. We're still business partners doing that as a very good side income. And so that's just how it all started and how it continues even to this day.
So even just like a little curiosity or starting with the bungee jumping and just ending up in Japan and knowing the language has helped you to get those other opportunities, just being in the right place at the right time, I guess.
Well, yeah, and they say, you can look at me and say, well, you were just lucky. You can say that. But Seneca says luck is where opportunity and preparedness meet. And I add one more thing, you take action. Because opportunity and preparedness can meet if you do nothing about it, nothing happens. And so you got to be willing to take those first steps and keep moving forward because we all know what happens when we start to think out of the box. The people closest to us, friends, family, oh, you can't do that. That's you don't want to do that. They're the naysayers. They tell you every reason why not to do that.
Yeah.
And so you have to be willing to overcome that and say, well, tell me why. Okay, I know I can't, but if I was going to do it, how could I do it? What should I do? And that just gives your brain the permission to continue to think about, okay, how could I make this happen? And so that's why I said anything that crosses my path, good, bad, or ugly, I ask, how can I monetize it?
What's something you see every day that most people completely overlook as a business opportunity?
So right now with AI out there has not been an easier time in the history of the world to start a business and do whatever it is you want to do. Used to have the bottleneck of knowledge and information. You don't have that anymore. With AI, you have all the knowledge right there at your fingertips if you just ask the right questions. And so people sometimes get caught in thinking that, hey, I need to know everything before I get started. And you don't because you have it right there at your fingertips. And the theme that I get from interviewing people who have been in business, like in my book, I have the one of the founders of Jamberry. Her name's Erin, and her sister, they started this Jamberry company. It's nail wraps. And this was before nail wraps were able to do it yourself. They were the first ones to do it. And before that, you had to go into a salon and get your nails done. And it'd cost you 50, $60 a pop. And they were walking out of the salon one day, and one of them said to the other, huh, I wonder if we could do these ourselves at home for cheaper. They went, did their Google searches, there's no one else doing do it yourself nail wraps. They got their hands on some products. They created a prototype, went to a home show. They came home with a bunch of orders. Got the orders out, did it again, came home with a bunch of orders. 5 years later, they sold half the company that was doing $750 million in revenue for a multi-million dollar deal. Now, one of the things she says is what I asked her, what would be your advice to people who are wanting to start something, start a side hustle? She said, even if you don't know the ins and outs, start it anyway and learn as you go. Richard Branson, Virgin Records guy, says the same thing. If someone comes to you with an amazing opportunity, you don't know how to do it, say yes and figure it out. And so people, they just they put limitations on themselves, and with AI right now those limitations are gone. So just get in there, take the first steps, find you a mentor, someone that has done what it is that you want to do, and whether you hire them or whether you just follow them on YouTube, Facebook, whatever, use them to help you through the times when all your closest friends and family are saying, oh, you can't do that. You don't want to do that. if you have someone there to help you to hold your hand through it, it makes things a lot easier.
What are some things that your friends and family has told you that you couldn't do that you were just like, I'm gonna do it anyway?
One of my best friends, his wife told him or asked him once, "Why doesn't Bart just go get a real job? I've never had a real job. I don't want a real job. Sometimes it's rocky, but I enjoy doing what I do. I sometimes work more than the average person who's probably going to work 9 to 5, but I'm doing stuff that I like to do, and I'm doing it on my own terms, on my own time. And so that's the biggest one that sticks out whenever you ask me that question. I have couple of sisters that are from the same dad. They grew up with the same dad, and I talk about monetize this, monetize that, and they've asked me, well, what does monetize mean? I'm just like, really? And so it comes all over my wife. Okay, so here's another one, and this is a really close one. When I start something new, she is always my person that grounds me in reality, and she informs me of the reasons why something won't work. And I sometimes tell her, "Hun, why don't you tell me why it should work? Tell me how to make it work." And so that's kind of a way to change the discussion. I say, "Okay, I know you have these concerns, but what do we need to do to overcome those concerns?" And it gets me thinking and helping with her concerns to overcome it. So it's not a bad thing. However, sometimes it gets annoying.
Okay, well, just having a person to support you, and ask you those hard questions gets you thinking. Because, like you said, it gets your brain going. So it's kind of positive that you have her questioning, "Hey, like, how are you gonna do this? We can't do this." So I think it sounds like benefit for both of you because you both get clarity through the conversation.
Correct. Correct. And it keeps me grounded because I can be a dreamer. That's why I do what I do.
So you talk about monetizing your mindset. What beliefs did you have to unlearn before you started seeing opportunity instead of obstacles?
So I grew up with a dad who encouraged me and supported me from a very young age. I and so I don't know that I had huge obstacles, but my dad did grow up in the just after the depression. And so he and both him and my mom had that what do you call it? The non-abundance mentality. A little bit, money doesn't grow on trees. And so they had a little bit of that, even though dad was the millionaire next door. He was a self-made man. He was very grounded, but he always put out that, well, money doesn't grow on trees. So the one thing that I have overcame, or I continue to ask, is I don't say I can't afford this. I say, how can I afford it? One of the things that started my my mindset journey was I was volunteering at a drug rehab center. I was helping them learn how to speak and tell their stories. Are you familiar with Toastmasters?
Yes.
And so it was kind of a Toastmaster style club in this 90-day in-house drug rehab center. And I was listening to Jen tell her story, and she was talking about how growing up, she didn't realize that her life was different than other people's. Because when her and her family were out and about in public, they were normal. It wasn't until she got home in the private where the abuse and neglect happened. And so she thought everybody else went home to the same situation. And I'm sitting there listening to her tell her story, and I'm thinking, it's the same with the way people think about making money and the way I think about making money. And that's where the idea of monetize your mindset started. And I think it was triggered because a few days earlier, before I was at this meeting, someone posted on Facebook how to live on less than $28,000 a year. And my first thought was, why would I even want to read that? Why don't you tell me how to make more than $28,000 a year so I can live better? And so when I'm sitting there listening to Jen, this all clicks. It's just clicking in my head like click, 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 click. If you didn't grow up with my dad or someone like my dad who encouraged me and helped me along the way and showed me by example, you need help to learn how to think like I do. And so that's where it was all kind of born. My first business I started at age 15 as soon as I could get my driver's license. I started a mobile disco business called Illusion. And I didn't even have a place to, no one was hiring 15-year-old DJs in my town. So I rented the community center, hired an off duty cop for security. Mom and dad took money at the door. I spun records. Everybody had a good time after the football games on Friday night or the basketball games on Saturday night. Kids had a place to go. I was making $600-700 a night doing something that I loved. Playing music. I was doing it anyway because I bought my first stereo at age 11 and I was buying the tunes. So I might as well get paid to play the tunes. And my dad was there to encourage me and help me along the way.
It's important, like family just supporting you, so it gave you the courage to grow and continue to expand, you know? Because you going out there, some parents may be like, no, you're not going to DJ, but mom and dad being there to support you and take money at the door was the catalyst for you to continuously keep growing.
Yes, and it wasn't even with just that. Even before that, we would have fundraisers for the FFA. I don't know if you know what the FFA is. Future Farmers of America is what it stands for. And we would like sell oranges or sell magazine subscriptions to our people around us. Now, remember, I'm in a small town. And so you have 20 kids going after the same people in this tiny town. And so my dad, he would support me and say, get on the phone. You start making calls right now because I had goals that I wanted. The first one with the oranges, I think if you sold $500 worth, you would get a pair of Justin Ropers, which was the cowboy boot of that era that everybody wanted. And so I'm like, okay, well, if I sell twice that much, if I sell over $1,000, can I get a pair for me and my girlfriend? They said yes. And so to beat everybody from going door to door, dad says, get on the phone, start doing dials, make phone calls, and then we'll go around and pick up the money. So that's what I did. I sold over $1,100 worth of oranges in this small town, and I got two pairs of Justin Ropers. And so just in those type of things, when I would set a goal, my dad would be there to make it not make it happen, but to make me keep my own goals, and do it the
Yeah,
proper
wonderful.
way to get there. Playing little league, I wanted to hit better. So my dad, we're up at 6 o'clock in the morning. He was throwing me a big bucket of baseballs as I was swinging in this big barn, and we would just hit. He'd throw them and I'd hit, throw them and I'd hit. We did that every morning to help me get better at batting and just functioning in whatever capacity, not even just entrepreneurship, just in life. And for those who may not have that same opportunity, find someone that is doing what it is you want to do and make a connection. Even if you have to pay them as your mentor, they will help you get where you want faster with a higher chance of success.
Yeah. Okay. Have you ever chased an opportunity that looked incredible but turned out to be completely wrong for you?
So one of the things I tell people they need to do is, and so I try and help them think like I do. So we'll go down and we'll make a list of what it is you like to do, what it is that you need to do, And the third list is, what are you already doing? And then we ask, how can I monetize one, two, maybe three of those things? But as you're doing this, you need to do your research on each one of those things. Meaning, okay, I got to give up XYZ to possibly get ABC. And we're not sure what we're going to get. We're just, we're hoping, but we know we're going to have to give up this. And because everybody, I wish I was Bezos, or I wish I was Musk, or I wish I was Mark Cuban, whoever the billionaire is. But are you willing to do what they did? Mark Cuban slept on all his friends' couches until he made it. Even Musk, he stays in his office all the time. Are you willing to have that lifestyle? And so on my adventures to and from Japan, I have this restaurant. It's a chain restaurant in Japan that I love. It's called Koko Ichiban Curry. It's a Japanese curry restaurant, and it is the best. It is the absolute best. And if you go to one of those that's near a military base on a Friday or Saturday night, you think you're in America because that's where all the GIs are. And so I knew this would go in America. So I'm like, I need to take this to America. I even had a rich Japanese friend over there that was going to fund it for me. He said it like this. I actually had to check with other Japanese friends to make sure I heard him properly. He says, if we make money, we split it. If you don't worry about it. I had free money to do this. I got home. I started doing my research, talking with restaurateurs, talking about, what it's going to take and, just trying to figure out what it is that I'm going to have to give up. And I decided, you know what? I don't want to work that hard because unless you're immediately successful, and I mean, it's 2 years of hard work, even with a good restaurant, before you maybe get people to help you taking over some of that stress for me. I'm like, you know what? That's not what I want to do. So I said no. I said no to the free money because my heart wouldn't be in it. And so I said, I like to eat the stuff. I don't want to oversee making it every day. And so you have to do that when you're looking for I call it your ideal side hustle. Finding something, don't be chasing someone else's side hustle that wasn't meant for you. Life is too short. So find the thing that is meant for you from your life experiences and from what you have done.
So in that experience, what did that teach you? What's the biggest lessons you learned from that one experience?
And I don't, because I didn't go into it, the lesson that I learned was just that, hey, I I know where my lane is and I know that that's not it. The bigger lesson may have been learned is if I went into it and lost money, and then I would have learned more. I mean, Gary Vaynerchuk, he says, I would rather hit 7 out of 10 than 10 out of 10 because I learned so much from the failures. And so the thing that I learned is something that I knew, which was, if it's not for you, don't do it. But the caveat there is, don't not do it because of, be willing to fail because you're going to learn a lot, but don't do something that wasn't meant for you. If you're doing your research, I'm giving up this to get this, and you decide this isn't what you want to give up, stop there. But if you're giving up this to get this and you're willing to give up this, go for it. So I want to be clear on what I'm saying. I just realized before I went for it that through my research that, hey, I don't want to work that hard.
Yeah. Okay. So say you are listening, you're talking to somebody new, entrepreneur, or just a person in general that is tired of the work life and wants something different. What's the first piece of advice that you would give them to monetize their mindset?
So the first thing is you need to do an inventory of what you have. What's in your toolbox? So you're going to ask the question, what do you like to do? And I would have them make a list. And I would say, don't prejudge your list. Just go ahead and make that list. We'll refine it later. Make another list of the things you need to do. A lot of people overlook the things they need to do because they don't want to do them. I don't know if you know, but I'm a below the knee amputee on my left leg. And when I found out that was going to happen, my twisted mind goes, okay, I don't like this, but it's got to happen. It's going to happen. So how can I monetize it? And so 6 months post-op, 6 months after my amputation, I contracted with my prosthetist to help others that are going to have to go through what it is I went through. So I didn't want to go through it, but it is life changing. You have to change things in your life to deal with this amputation. And so this is something that I had to do, I needed to do for myself. Can I help other people and get compensated for it? And so things you need to do are often overlooked. And then the things that you're already doing, once again, almost overlooked. A couple of years ago, I hopped in an Uber. My driver was Megan. I said, Megan, how is Uber treating you today? And she says, oh, I just do this to and from work. She was a nurse at the U of U hospital, University of Utah Hospital, and she lived about an hour away. And it was oftentimes she was traveling through heavy traffic. So she would pick someone up on our way to work, get there, do her work, and then pick someone up on our way home from work. She'd make an extra $60, $70 a day. But then guess what? If it was during rush hour traffic, she got to use the HOV lane. She would get home faster. And so monetizing that is something that I don't know many people would think about, but you have to drive to work. Why not do an Uber to and from work? I bought my first house just out of college. I I took the room I wanted. I rented the other rooms to other single guys, and it paid for my mortgage and then some. Then when I got married, I lived upstairs, rented out the basement to college kids. And then when I moved to a new house, I looked for a house that had an accessory apartment. I have never lived in a house that someone wasn't paying at least half of my mortgage. Something that I have to do for myself. Why not get paid to do it? So I would take people, have them make those three lists, and then help them refine them into the things that they should try first. As we're refining them, doing the research that I talked about, you got to give up this to get this. Is it worth it? Is it something you want to do? And as we do that, some one, two, maybe three or four things are going to bubble up to the top that they should try first.
Nice. So just that four-step system of finding out, all right, what are your skill sets? What do you know? What do you have? And going from there to build that monetization.
Yeah, so that gets you the ideas. And then once again, getting a mentor, someone that can help you get there. So with my program, I take you from finding the idea to 6 months having that cash flowing. And so we have a 6 month program where I take you step by step through what it is you need to do and show you how to use AI to increase your chances of success and save you time and money while you're doing it.
What's one question every family should have about money that almost nobody's having?
The question that they should ask about money is, how can I use money to make more money? It doesn't even have to be money. A lot of the things that I have done had low startup cost. And so it's not even about the money. So if I'm going to spend money, I like to spend it on something that's going to create children. Children being children of the dollars, more dollars coming in. Now I know we can't do that with everything, but if there's extra money, I like to put it in something that can generate more money.
So Last question for you. 20 years from now, well, one more after this. 20 years from now, what do you hope people say wasn't your greatest business, but your greatest contribution?
So for me, I like the fact that I don't come into any of this with an agenda. I get mad sometimes at other coaches, other motivational speakers that they come in with an agenda and the agenda doesn't they may make a lot of money, but the people who came and spent the money to be there, they get their dopamine hit, they go home, nothing changes for them. So I want people to say that Bart may not have made a lot of money like some of these other guys, but the people that came through his system made life-changing decisions that changed their life.
'Cause you have a lot of courses that people want transformation, but they don't get it. So that's phenomenal that you would say that.
Well, and like I said, I sometimes I get mad at these other coaches that are putting out stuff that charge a whole lot of money to get contact with them and to do their to get coaching from them, and their processes are non-transformational. They it's like I said, it's a dopamine hit, and I get mad at myself because I'm not giving them a better option. Well, now I'm giving people a better option.
So last question, Bart. What is one thing you thought I would ask, but I didn't quite really ask you?
What is the thing that people should take away from this conversation?
What's the biggest thing, Bart?
So even in death, my dad taught me a lesson. Even in his death, he taught me a lesson. Have you heard the story Acres of Diamonds? So it's a story about a Persian farmer. His name was Ali Afed. He sold his farm and he went in search of diamonds. He died broke, alone in a foreign land. He never found his diamonds. The owner of the farm that he sold to this guy was watering his camel in the brook. He found a rock in the water. It was a diamond. He literally found acres of diamonds in what was Ali Afed's backyard. My family, we have a similar story. Instead of acres of diamonds, we call it acres of pig poop. Like I told you, I grew up on a pig farm. There were more pigs than people in our town because dad was a pig farmer. We had at any one time we had 15 to 19,000 pigs on the farm. We ran about 2,000 sows. Do you know what a sow is? It's a mama pig. And a mama pig can give birth 2.5 times a year. And on our farm, we average 9.97 pigs per litter. Now, for all the mathematicians out there, if you do the math, that equals a lot of pig poop. And so we had these three man-made ponds that we would run the pig poo into. And they were settling ponds. One year it goes here, next year it goes here, and then just rotate, rotate, rotate. In his mid 60s, dad decided it was time to shut down the pig operation and go in search of his next big thing, his next acres of diamonds. He died at age 81. He never found his new thing. 2 years after his death, we sold the farm for $235,000, which was a fair price for the property at the time. The new owners of the farm, about 6 months later, were leveling those man-made ponds that had been there for years. They've been dry on top for a long time. But as the heavy grader was going across the middle of one of those ponds, it broke through the crust and sunk up to its belly in this black muck. They called in experts to see what it was all about, see what it was. And I mean, obviously, we know what it is. It's pig poop. But the new owners of their farm were there, and the experts offered them $2,000 a ton for the stuff. That's $1 a pound for old pig poop. And I can see you're kind of curious about what would they want that for? Fertilizer. makes really good fertilizer. So 500 plus tons of old pig poop was acres of diamonds under my dad's nose. So for your listeners, for the people listening, what about you? Are you finding your acres of diamonds? Are you close to discovering them? Or are you overlooking them like Alia Fed and my dad? Because they're right there in your own backyard, right there within your grass, right there under your nose. And don't be surprised, they might even look like a pile of pig poop. So just don't overlook what is right there in front of you.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your story, sharing your expertise, and sharing your knowledge with us. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks,
And
you. I enjoyed the conversation.
yeah, it was pretty good at that. I just can't imagine you guys missed out on almost like, I would say almost $1 million in pig poop
Yeah, it
or
was
more.
the farm is now worth over $1 million.
So definitely, if you watch this, go ahead and like and comment. And if Bart said anything that resonates with you, go ahead and let's have a conversation in the comments. All right. So I want to thank everybody for watching. Thank you all for subscribing. And thank you for joining Be Inspired podcast, where we're inspiring you to live the abundant life you deserve. See you next week.